And we're live. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to yet another episode of the Food Web Podcast. Every Wednesday, Justin Andrews and myself, Keegan Francis, get together on LinkedIn Live and Instagram Live, and we talk all things food, particularly as they pertain to Food Web, but not necessarily. Food's a broad topic, so who knows what we're going to cover. But this week, we've got something in store for you. We're going to tease you just a little bit. We're going to let you peek a little bit behind the curtain as to what we're working on. And the whole title of this episode is The Many Ways That You Can Use Your Kitchen and let other people use your kitchen. So, yeah, just wanted to, Justin, there's a couple of things here. One, there's a party happening right outside of my window and it's real loud. Like in India, it gets bonkers, man. I gotta say. So if anyone hears that coming through the podcast, just that's what's happening. There's a big shindig happening outside. And at that shindig, I just want to take the moment to just explain how food works here in India. Like they do open air cooking here. There's no food permits really. If you want to bring a great big cauldron and cook a chicken biryani in the middle of the street, do it. Go feed your neighbors, man. That's how they work here. So that's what's happening at this party just outside my window here. And that both warms my heart, but also annoys me because I'm trying to film a podcast here, guys. Can you keep it down? I'm on the 8th floor and it feels like they're bumping the tunes just at volume 12 right beneath me. But
if you wanted to do a big event,
yeah,
it's just interesting, right? Because it's so relevant to what we do here at Food Web. If you wanted to cook a chicken biryani outdoors for a group of people, you need a permit and a temporary event permit in Nova Scotia. You have to apply for 60 days before your event and tell them where your running water comes from and blah, blah, blah. So it's just the contrast is it's interesting and it's so relevant to see these two worlds side by side.
That's a perfect primer for today's discussion, Justin. So I want you to let people know what we're up to, right? Give them a real good, not tease, but then give them the full meal deal. Go right into the main course after a while. Hey, what are we working on at Food Web right now? Where's our head at? And what have you been doing this week? Who have you been calling? And what conversations have you had? Let's just start there.
Yeah, since our grand launch about a month and a bit ago, December 8th, 2025, we now have 4 kitchens fully onboarded and live on the platform. So if you go to our website, foodweb.network/browse kitchens, or click the browse kitchens button, you can see the kitchens that are live there on the platform. So shout out to a couple of those for making it through and being ready to bring people on. We also have about 10, 12 kitchens that are still completing that onboarding process and getting their documents in line. One of which is the Heartwood restaurant. I've been talking to Carrie, the owner of Heartwood, quite a bit over the last week. We've been on the phone a couple times. And for anybody that knows my food journey, I used to work in Heartwood. It was actually my last full-time restaurant job before I started doing more freelance work and then eventually going back to school and starting Food Web. So it was the last time I really was in it. And it was Heartwood. It was their location on Quinpool. They've now closed that location and reopened where Envie used to be. If anybody remembers the Envie, a vegan restaurant in Halifax on Agricola Street. And yeah, Heartwood's operating out of there. And, Carrie's interested in making some extra money like a lot of the other kitchen owners we talk to and operating on days when they're not using the kitchen. And yeah, we've just been talking, cool, let's get you on the platform. And then I was like, wait a second, hold on. Can I rent the kitchen? Can I use the kitchen? Can I do a pop-up dinner? It's been a hot minute since I've really been in the kitchen and actually serving meals to people beyond my friends and family, doing a full-on restaurant service. It's been a hot minute for me and I miss it. I really have a lot of fun doing it. I guess I got into that a little quicker than I thought, but that's the teaser. That's the sneak peek, is that in 2 weeks from now on February 6th, I'm going to be doing a pop-up dinner. I'm bringing in one of my best friends, Coco, Chef Coco. Her and I have done a lot of food stuff over the years together, started a business together. And really the reason why Food Web is doing what Food Web is doing Like me and Coco went through the challenge of wanting to do cooking classes and wanting to rent kitchens and struggling to find them and realizing opening your own kitchen was just not financially viable. And ultimately, that's what sent me back to school, was not being able to do what I wanted to do with Coco that many years ago. To come full circle and do a dinner at Heartwood in the old RV kitchen. I also used to work at RV, so this is like a really special full circle moment for me. And if you're listening, tickets are going to go live today or tomorrow. Get them quick while they're there. There's only going to be 25 seats for this dinner. So that's a little bit about the energy coming into the new year. Kitchens are signing up, and I'm realizing that me just stepping into a role as a chef is a really wonderful opportunity to get these kitchens going and get people aware of what's possible here. What can we do when we share kitchens, right? What can happen when it's easier to access a commercial kitchen for a small business?
Yeah, we need to linger on a couple of these points for a little bit. First off, Justin, you're going to be in Halifax. Just like list those dates. Just tell us what dates you're going to be in and around Nova Scotia.
Yeah, so I'll be in Halifax January 25th until probably like February 8th or so. So I'm around. I'm going to be touring. I'm going to be hitting up Pictou because Heather with the Pictou County Partnership has been really supportive of Food Web and wanting to see us get some kitchens online. If weather allows me to take the journey down to Yarmouth, I would love to come down and see our pals down in Yarmouth. But I'm going to be around and I'm going to be visiting kitchens. I want to come and talk to you and hear about what's going on. And if you're interested in opening your doors to other people. So anybody that has a kitchen, if you're curious about what it looks like to rent it out, send me a message. I would love to pop by. We can book a call, or I can actually come. I would love to come to the kitchen and see what's going on and see how we can help you, share your space when it's empty. We know restaurants are hurting right now. Having an extra revenue line, it could be really supportive for your business right now. And that's what we're all about. How do we put more money in your pockets?
Yeah, and what is the stat there, Justin? Like we heard that stat that came out of Dalhousie University. Is it 41%, 46%? It's one of those two are expected to just straight up close in like across Canada. Like, doesn't that mean, isn't it?
No, so it was 41% are operating at a loss. And
Right.
I think there was a smaller number that are expected to close. I don't remember that stat. And that'll be an estimation based on the things, but 41% of restaurants in Canada are operating at a loss. That's tragic. And profit margins in food businesses have always been tight. Now with the tariffs and with the cost of food and the cost of living and the wage demands from workers, I know restaurants are really having a hard time. And at the same time, there are dozens, if not hundreds, depending on what region you look at, of small food businesses wanting a chance to get started and get off the ground that need a place to rent 1 day a week or 3 days a week. Our goal here at Food Web is to just connect those dots, right? Is make those connections, make those introductions, and make that easy. Yeah. So we'll be around, and I'm going to be knocking on some doors over the next couple weeks here.
Yeah, right on. And I do think that the Yarmouth folks are having a party or like a networking event, I do believe, on the Thursday that you're home. So just put that one on your calendar. I'll send you a link later. We'll put it in the show notes perhaps. Now, okay, on the Heartwood, this is around my old stomping grounds as well. It's where I used to go shop at Local Source and pick up my daily bread there. So it's also sentimental for me. I won't be joining this dinner because the flight ticket would be absorbent to make it there. But I do wish I could be there because like what we're actually talking about with this event is bringing people together around like a shared purpose. Right, that's the kind of people that would end up buying a ticket to this thing. Maybe they're just a foodie, right, and like they want to come and eat Justin's delicious food. But also, like we're building something here, and there's an element of social proof that's needed in order to bring this whole thing to the next level, and then to keep on leveling up from there on. So this pop-up dinner it's actually a micro example of something that we'd love to see be exemplified and replicated everywhere. Like anywhere where there's a Food Web kitchen, we would actually like it to see anyone, any chef, be able to say, you're making that kitchen is available for me to have a pop-up dinner. Button click, boom, I'm having a pop-up dinner there next week. And so take me through the journey of, we went through a bit of a roller coaster with the regulators. First, like, we started off on a foot of disheartenment with the 60-day thing, but yeah, I'm just going to let you take that journey and narrate your way through that, please.
Yeah, anybody that's listened to me talk about this before has probably heard me rant and complain about the permits and how hard that can be and how much of a barrier that can be for small food businesses. Big food factories, keeping things very strict and controlled is important so we don't send foodborne illness elsewhere. But for small businesses, it can be hard. So I went into this pop-up being like, okay, like, we're going to do a pop-up in 2.5 weeks. That's a pretty tight turnaround time. What's this permit process going to be? And at first I was overwhelmed. I was like Googling, what permits do I need? And everything was pointing me towards the temporary event permit. So I look at the permit and it says right at the top, must submit 60 days, 60, before your event. And I'm like, crushed. I'm just like, damn. And I'm like, that can't be. Like, the temporary event permit is also for like pop-up markets, Taste of Asia or the Korean Food Festival. And there's a lot more going on, and it makes sense you need to apply in advance because you have all these vendors and you need to make sure there's hand washing stations and all that stuff. So I just called, right? So the food inspectors operate under the Department of Environment. So I just went on the website and I called the general contact number for the Department of Environment. And I said, hey, I'm going to do a pop-up dinner at a restaurant. The restaurant has a permit. What permits do I need? And she's like, let me patch you through to somebody. And just like my frustration with government, I was expecting to be on hold for an hour and like I'm just ready for an unfortunate experience. Good news story. They instantly paged me through. Hello, this is, and I'm like, I have questions about what kind of permit I need for a type of food event. Are you the right person? And yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. So this is what I'm doing. What do I need? And she's like, if you're like serving the food in the same spot that has the permit, you're not like packaging it and taking elsewhere, you don't even need anything. Just as long as you have your food handler's certificate, which like you can take an online course to get that for $60. Like everybody needs that to operate a commercial kitchen for food safety. And you have your own insurance that covers, and that's between you and the kitchen owner. But for us as the health inspectors, if you're doing it on site of a place with a permit, just go for it. And I was like, after just so many difficult explorations on permits, like to have something that easy was like, wow. Most of our work so far, the use case or the user that we have been focused on supporting are really farmers market vendors. Somebody that needs to rent a kitchen and then pack their stuff up and then bring to the market so they can sell it at the market, because we need more of those, right? We do. We need more food products to be made locally. They rent a kitchen, sell at the market, they build their business, and they eventually get in Sobeys and Loblaws, which will push away the imported food, and we'll see the grocery stores lined with local food. Yeah, we talk about that all the time, and it's really important. And it's complicated. There's just so many steps, and the health inspectors and food moving from one place to the other. It's just a lot. Because I spend so much time in that like sticky feeling, for the inspector to just be like, no, pop-up dinner, you're chill, just give her, just do it. And I was like, really? It can be that easy? And then it's just, that's the opportunity there, right? Think about how many restaurants are closed on Mondays, right? Like, you could just do a pop-up, right? Getting insurance, you can do that in a day. You can call an insurance company and get your insurance in a day. You can do your food handler certificate on a weekend, on your laptop, on a website, on a live webinar. Like, you can just do that, right? So whether you're a chef that, does these regularly, or somebody that's always wanted to just have the experience of doing a pop-up dinner, or even maybe you're not a professional chef, but you like to have dinner parties, but like you can only really have 8 people around your dinner table at home. Like, what if you could rent a whole dining room and play in an industrial kitchen with 8 burners instead of 4? That's just possible, right? it's possible to play, it's possible to have that creative expression, but you're also giving money to that kitchen that's really struggling financially that could benefit from a couple $100 or whatever it would cost to rent a kitchen on the day they're closed.
Yeah.
We're really excited
Awesome.
here.
Yeah, I just want to draw that arc. So the arc was like, oh, I expect this whole government regulation around food to make this a really difficult experience for me. And then like where you got to at the end of the conversation was like massive relief and also just inspired, because it turns out there's an opportunity for us building Food Web to just shorten the time of experimentation for chefs. So what I mean by that is, yeah, you outlined the market vendor use case for us, right? So if you're a market vendor, you can totally use Food Web. We've built the platform for you. But what we did not realize necessarily was that actually there's a second use case here. There's probably at least 3 or 4 more other than that. But let's just like hone in on this second use case, which is, hey, if you're a chef, if you make food, you can sell tickets. Actually, hey Justin, maybe Food Web will sell your tickets, and hey, actually maybe we will host your entire pop-up dinner for you, and you can inherit our insurance and everything. We'll do everything for you. You show up, you cook, we got your tickets, and you make money right then and there. Because like that must be disheartening for food vendors to like, okay, I'm going to front this $200 I need to rent the kitchen on a Tuesday, and I'm just going to hope that my food stays good until Saturday on the market day. And then I'm going to hope that I sell that out and make back that $200 I just spent to rent that kitchen. That's a lot of hoping, man. That's a lot of hope. There's people out there with that much hope, but like it is a lot. That's a lot to bring to the table, pun intended. So what we just realized through this exercise that we did, this pop-up dinner that we're hosting at Heartwood, is that you can be a chef and you can host a pop-up dinner at a place that's already regulated or at a Food Web kitchen. Benefit for the kitchen is, oh, you're a chef. Like you're not some random Joe or Jane that's just going to walk in my door and I have to vet and I just have to trust. Like you might have a reputation in the city for already being a chef and you want to do your own thing. You want to like this space and time to experiment. Like amazing. You can now do that on Food Web. And everything is taken care of for you. Like one click button, tickets, the whole wrap. Let's do that, right? Let's have that be a use case. Let's walk down that road together.
Yeah, absolutely. Is making it easy. And if you're savvy on hosting events and you already have your own insurance, like by all means, just rent a kitchen and on Food Web and host your own pop-up. But what Keegan's talking about is we're putting together like a out of the box like pop-up package, right? If you want to do a pop-up dinner, but you don't want to deal with the ticket listings and you don't have your own insurance and don't want to have to do that because you maybe only want to try to do this once and don't want to spend the time on the phone with the insurance company, reach out. We would love to just support and co-host that event with you. We can take on that administration because that's really ultimately the goal at Food Web, is to be the admin backend for food entrepreneurs to be able to do their job easier, faster. And when you're doing an event, if you're the chef for an event, like the day or two of prep and grocery shopping and cooking and cleaning is like a lot of work, right? So the extra couple hours of paperwork and whatnot to get the event up and running, we would love to support on that and just make it easy, make it faster.
Yeah, one of the core hypotheses that we formed when building this business, Justin, was that people like foodies, food entrepreneurs, this was an assumption, right? They just want to cook. Some of them, like, they get off on the accounting and like all the rest of the paperwork on it, right? But most foodies that I've met, they're like, no, like just put me in the kitchen. Like I just want to chop my carrots and make that meal and put food in people's tummies. And one of our phrases here at Food Web is you can't eat money. You also can't eat paperwork. Like paperwork doesn't bring value to people. Like it's a requirement because of X, Y, and Z reasons. But at the end of the day, no one's eating paperwork. So let Food Web handle that for you and just show up and make your meal and bring joy to people through their stomachs, because that's one of the most easy ways to bring joy to people, honestly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's one way to use a kitchen. That's one way. But you had another idea that you've been simmering on the back burner for quite some time there, Justin. And this one I've actually seen advertisements for on the internet for school.com. Hey, we're looking for this. I'm not going to spoil the surprise. You're going to lay it all out for me, but yeah, this is something that entrepreneurs struggle with. If you're busy, which applies to everyone in today's day and age, like no one really, like, where does the time go exactly? Then you need to do meal prep. Meal prep is something I've seen everywhere, all the places. So let's unpack that there, Justin. Like, why can a kitchen and how can a kitchen and how is Food Web going to open that up for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So even just to share personally a little bit more first, and just being busy, working a lot, building Food Web, some days at the end of the day, I just don't have it in me to cook dinner. And I'm a chef. Like that's my playground. And some days I just can't. And living in Montreal and having just so many options of like beautiful restaurants in my neighborhood in particular, there's a lot of like African and Indian and Middle Eastern restaurants that do really affordable takeout and like really healthy, but that still adds up. And I eat a lot more takeout than I want, and it's not good for the budget. And so I really leaned into meal prep like really hard. I bought a stand-up deep freezer. It's in my back room, and I've just been meal prepping. And I'll make meals, I'll freeze them, and at the end of the day, if I don't have it in me to cook dinner, like 4 minutes in the microwave and boom, like I have this healthy meal that I prepared myself. I know it's real. There's no preservatives and all of that. Quick little rant on microwaves, actually, just because I was scared of them for a long time because I'm like, microwaves, radiation, microwaves, oh no, they're going to destroy the nutrients in my food. So like, I went down the rabbit hole and I like found a couple sources that I like, my academic brain is, like I trust the reporting of these sources. Yeah, it seems like they're actually just okay. Microwaves, like frozen dinner microwaves from like the grocery store full of preservatives. It's not the microwave's fault. It's the like scary ingredient list. But like microwaves actually heat your food faster than reheating it in the oven. And it's not the microwave that damages the nutrients. It's the heat that damages the nutrients. And if you expose the nutrients to heat for less time, you'll destroy less nutrients. So like a 30-second reheat in the microwave for some soup is going to preserve the nutrients more than reheating it in the pot. And then you also don't need to like extra dishes. So like I got over my fear of microwaves and it's changed my life. Like I have freezer meals in the freezer that I made with real ingredients and like they're in glass containers. So there's no plastic and just boop, microwave, healthy food, instantly, no dishes. So that's really what's actually powering my meal prep work is having them that easy to microwave. So I just wanted to share that. And if somebody is listening that's like actually a scientist and wants to tell me that I'm wrong on the microwaves, please do. But if you read some blog about microwaves being scary, like I don't want to hear it. I did my homework and I'm currently convinced that microwaves are just fine. But yeah, meal prep. It's just something that not everybody's exposed to the skill set. So like when I do meal prep, I make 2 or 3 different dishes and I'll make 12 portions of each, right? You're cooking in big volumes to do that. Not everybody knows how. Not everybody has pots of that size, frying pans of that size. And so while I've been doing this for myself, I have another friend that's an entrepreneur who was like, dude, like, you could help so many busy people, bring them together. Like this idea we're getting into, these like meal prep cooking classes, I got to credit my friend Jezebel. She was like, Justin, this could be a thing. And the co-work office that I rent has a beautiful kitchen and this like big, beautiful dining room with like big windows that can be rented. And it's just empty all the time. There's one event a week, but it's just empty every afternoon and evening. And so I was like, what if I could rent that kitchen and do a cooking class that's centered around meal prep, right? We get 12 people together. Everybody breaks off into groups of 2 or 3. So there's 4 groups and each group makes one recipe in a really big batch. And then at the end of the class, everybody gets to take home a container of all the different things. So you fill your fridge with meals for the week. And this was just an idea that was born out of, I need to meal prep for myself. And then my friend is, yo, like, I don't have a kitchen capable of doing that kind of meal prep. So can you host a meal prep event? And then my co-work office has an underutilized kitchen, which is what Food Web is all about. And then it just went ding, ding, ding. This is such a great way to use kitchens that are underutilized, but also support people that need their fridge full of good food. And we get to come together. How great of a triple win is that? So this is the other little project that's emerging here. I'm going to be, as I mentioned with the pop-ups, like getting back in the kitchen. So, I'm putting my chef hat back on. I'll be leading some cooking classes. I'll be leading some dinners. But we're also going to be making it easier for other people to do the same. So just as we talked about making it easier to do a pop-up, if you don't want to have to go get your own insurance and you can just want to click a button and book a pop-up and use our insurance, you can do that. If you want to teach cooking classes and you don't want to deal with renting the kitchen and having your own insurance and marketing all of your own stuff, you just want an audience ready to learn and you want to come in and cook, we can help with that as well. That's, the other little news of the week.
Yes, sir. That's the digest. Yeah, so I want to add a couple of thoughts here. Just on my own, when I was doing meal prep in an earlier time in my life, like I would just cut green peppers. Like I wasn't cooking meals. I would just cut the raw materials and then I would walk away. Sorry, if I was to then cook a meal, I would just throw things together into a stir fry. That was my jam. It's still a lot faster than like having to cook everything. So there's like many forms that the meal prep exercise could take. Like I really like the idea of cooking 4 different recipes so everyone walks away with a variety. You also have a skill. You can like keep the meals more or less the same and just rotate the people amongst the stations from week to week. Instead of maybe doing like whole recipes one week, maybe you just prep food, like prep the raw ingredients and like you cut the squash, and who knows, man, there's so many ways that can manifest and many ways that it can unfold. And then I want to touch on both the elements here, tying them together a bit, because like you're one person and like I have some confidence that if you were to put your mind to it, that you could have your whole income would come from these 2 things. Like, hey, I'm Justin Andrews, chefjustinandrews.com. Like you can book me for a pop-up dinner. Like I host my own pop-up dinners, but like I'll come and do custom things for you. And also like I've got meal prep Mondays or whatever it is, right? And follow along online or come to this kitchen that I rent every Monday. And that you could probably have a very successful income. But here's the rub. Here's where the rubber meets the road. That it's not going to scale. There's a limitation to how many people you can reach and alone, and that's what Food Web is all about. While you're going and doing this pop-up dinner, while you're gonna go and do the meal prep Mondays or whatever it might be, we are creating templates. We're creating the model and the audience and the marketing. We're creating the whole damn thing so that everyone else can just emulate it. They can do the same thing. And like to think that they're competition with you, that's very silly, right? That's like not a thing. Everyone eats 3 times a day.
No competition in my mind with other people offering classes and doing dinners. If there are 8 billion people on this planet that need to be fed 3 times a day, and so X number of us need to be in the role of doing the feeding and the preparing, right? But as Keegan's kind of alluding to, if I'm going to go and figure out the nuanced details of, okay, I want to do a class, therefore I need this specific type of insurance and I need this specific blah, blah, blah. I don't want other small entrepreneurs to need to actually go and spend the hours of searching. Like I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to share the process and make it easier. And for anybody who's savvy and like actually likes the admin of stuff, go for it. Remain independent. Keep a bigger percentage of the ticket sales. But if you don't like the admin, then let us carry the admin. for you and help.
If you do like the admin, also just get in touch with us because you're a
Yes, that
unicorn.
too.
If you like the admin, you're not normal. So get in touch with us so that we can talk and figure out how you can help us admin.
Yeah.
Like adminning is crazy, and it ends up being complicated from province to province, from country to country. Like when I say that we want to scale, I mean that we want to scale. Like FoodWeb started in Halifax, Nova Scotia, but we're just going to get bigger. And we're like, this food company is going to go everywhere. We're going to go from coast to coast, from east to west, and then north to south. And then when we're done with that, we're going to cross the ocean and we're going to go overseas, and we're going to find the place that has that, like, the most strict food regulations, because that's where our app is most useful. It's probably going to be useful in other ways as well. But what our apps are really good at is like figuring out the regulation and doing that admin heavy work for you. So if you are a person and you're listening to this and you're good at food admin and you're in Bosnia, I don't know, and you're like, hey, in Bosnia, like they have this weird rule where you just have to have rubber gloves at the kitchen. It's okay, great. Let us help you figure that out. I don't know. Maybe we'll get back to you in a year, but the point here is that like our target for scaling is like beyond just like our limited sphere of influence as individuals.
Yeah. 100%. And just to highlight that, like if you're good at admin, we are in the near future going to be putting some calls out for more people to join our team. Just a little plug here. Keegan and I have bitten off a big fish. Bitten off big. I think I combined two phrases there. Anyways, FoodLib is big and it's a lot. And as a team of two, the vision that we have is like insurmountable, but we're not giving up. It's just one step forward nonstop. However, we do want to bring people on board. We are looking for people that see this vision that we have, that think that they have a way to plug in, whether that's like something like adjacent but close enough that you think they would fit really well together. Super cool. We can have that conversation. But if you're like, oh my God, like working for FoodWeb is my dream career, call me. I want to know you. Like, we are interested in people coming in at a co-founder level. Take a piece of the company and build this. Join us for the long haul. And there's a lot of nuance there, and that would take some time to like actually sort out. But if that sparks your interest, if working on the things we're working on is a dream job for you, like we need you to contact us and let us know what it is you see, because we can't do this alone and we don't want to do this alone, right? Like food touches so much of our lives and we all have different insights. We're going to keep laying as many bricks on the road in front of us as we can, just the two of us. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So then the link that you'd go to is foodweb.network/careers, actually. And so I did put a marketing director role up there the other day. The role itself needs a bit of refinement. Truth be told, I shoved it into our resident AI expert or AI thing. His name is Simon. So Justin and I, from day one of FoodWeb, we've been working with Simon. He's been Simon from day one. And like he's been there for every single decision and conversation that Justin and I have needed to have with one another and have alone. And yeah, anyway, just that's where if you go and read that job description, that's where it came from. It needs a little refinement and tweaking, but expect to see a couple more out there. Like just to name the areas in which we need help right now, it's like marketing. Marketing is huge. It's a full-time job. It's hard. You're competing for attention. Like the most valuable asset on the planet is people's time, right? It's the thing that we all have a limited amount of and we don't know when it ends. So therefore, it's your most valuable asset in this world. And a lot of us spend it scrolling, right? And like we have to figure out how to capture people's attention, to allocate more of their time and resources to food. Because it's evident to at least Justin and I that not enough resources have been allocated to food, resources being food, like time and money. Like we're not afraid to call it out. It's our opinion. We think that we're well justified in this opinion, but it's our opinion that not enough resources have been allocated to food. So if you want to allocate your most valuable resource, time, to a food project that matters, and that we're not going to stop, like Justice said, one brick on the road after another, nonstop until this thing's done, then, like Justin said, spark that conversation. We want to have that chat with you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Justin, let's now talk a little bit about. Okay, so you had a conversation with curbside pickup, and I want people to be aware of what's coming on the asset map from, because this is moving fast. Like, I want people to be really genuinely surprised with just like how broad of a thing that Justin and I are undertaking here, and just what our vision is exactly. And I want you to also just sit there with the awareness of us putting a lot of thought and intention into how all of these pieces fit together. If you really spend the time to understand Justin's manifesto and his vision, then you will see like a through line through to a better future for food to exist in. That's the vision that I see. That's why I'm here building this with Justin. And so, curbside pickup, Justin, you had that conversation with them. They build an asset map. Yeah, just tell me how that went. What was that all about?
So it's Curbside Harvest, I think, is the name of their website. But they're a group that built a map using Google Maps. Google Maps allows you to build custom maps if you want for free. And it just has a lot of the like curbside farm stands throughout the valley. So just making it easier for people in the Annapolis Valley in Nova Scotia to know where the curbside stands are. There's a map of all the farmers markets in Nova Scotia, but there's not a map of curbside stands. These are informal things, right? So I have a lot of work to go out and drive around and talk to farmers and make that map, right? Maps like that, there are hundreds of these. And then to go a step above, there are dozens of like maps that have been orchestrated by either local government or food related not-for-profits across Canada. So this is where the name of our company, like the full name of FoodWeb, is FoodWeb Asset Mapping Inc. Asset mapping is when you map assets, and assets can be a farmer's market. It can be a church that has a kitchen for rent. It can be a food bank. It can be a program. So they're both physical assets and like intellectual human resource capacity assets. And asset mapping, it has become quite a buzzword in the food industry. And people at conferences talking about, oh, I just wish I could like see what everybody was doing. There's just all these different moving pieces in food, and there's all these different food banks that all have their own different programming. Like, how do we know who we can collaborate with easier? Yada. So people undertake these projects, whether it's at a bigger scale, a nonprofit wants to map all this stuff in Halifax and they have a big grant to do, or an independent business like Curbside Harvest is, I want to map the farm stands in my area. And she organizes things like wine tours and has her own small business wrapped around that. The problem is that there are hundreds of these maps that don't talk to one another. So if you live in the Annapolis Valley, there's a Curbside Harvest map, but if you move to St. John for work and now you don't have a map anymore, and do you have the time to build your own website and a map? And speaking with Curbside Harvest, just like the individual one at a time adding of things, it's time consuming and tedious. So at the small scale, it's time consuming and tedious. At the bigger scale, these not-for-profits that will get a grant for $100,000, they'll hire 2 consultants to go out and map the food system. In a year and a half those links have changed and are broken. And anybody that works in the nonprofit world will know it's a lot easier to get a grant for a new innovative project. And it is almost impossible to get a grant for the same project the next year because it's not the new innovative thing anymore. Like, continued funding for nonprofits is hard, if not impossible, depending on your sector. So there are so many maps that have had so much resources poured into them that end up being out of date and no capacity to keep going and keep adding to it. So What are we doing about it? We're building a national and eventually international food map. Couple things. Keegan and I are not taking on the lofty goal of thinking that we have capacity to curate a data set that big, because we can't. But it's something that we are building the capacity for all of us to contribute to that map together. So unlike most of the other maps across Canada, and we'll have to leave some links in for the podcast, there's an academic paper published in the Canadian Journal of Food Studies, I believe, end of 2024. They did a review of 73 food asset maps across Canada. And the maps they reviewed were more of like the bigger ones run by government and not-for-profits, not like the smaller independent ones. So 73 like formal big asset mapping projects across Canada. 73. Think of how much money to orchestrate all those individual projects for many of them to run, to become out of date, and they don't talk to each other. We're flipping this system inside out. We want you to be able to live in Halifax and then move to Toronto and then move to Vancouver and still have your favorite spots on your map, and you can add to the map yourself. You can contribute to mapping your local food system. So a conversation I had with one of the smaller independent maps is somebody will message them and say, hey, like I found a thing that isn't on your map. Can you add this to the map? And then that goes into a backlog of, oh shit, I need to find a time to do this. That's not the case with FoodWeb. Our food map is collaborative. You can add to the map. It becomes a collective project that only gets stronger and stronger over time. And then if you identify, oh, like this map, the link is broken, I'm going to suggest an edit, because we all collectively share that responsibility of keeping the data accurate. Think Wikipedia and Google Maps having a baby for food. That's what is being built here. And this is something that's for everybody. Like this is something we do together. And guess what? It's for free, right? We're a business and this is for free. There will be other advanced features that will make sense for businesses to use, that will have paid costs. But this base layer is just for free because it needs to be, right? And it is powered by all of us. So rather than running it as a not-for-profit, getting a grant for this time-bound project, we're flipping that model inside out and building this map in a way that we can all use it, we can all collaborate on it, we can all add to it and know where everything is.
Right on, man. So I do want to point out like a couple of my own frustrations with some of the things that you said. Just like to hear like 73 asset maps just like at a macro scale, right? Like the big formal ones. And like what percentage of those are undertaken by nonprofits? It's close to 100% of them, right?
So it's about half and half government and not-for-profit. Out of the 73, there was one run as a business and there was one run as other, whatever other means in the research, and then 20-something are nonprofits and 30-something are government or vice versa. I'd have to pull up the specific paper. But
right. So
yeah.
My frustration there is in the efficient use of capital. Like I'm pretty particular and critical about how dollars are spent, like both in my personal life and publicly as well. So when I hear that these maps, even if it's 50% of them, that they go out of date, like they've been built wrong, essentially. If it's not real time, if it's not living data, they were built wrong. And so some portion of my tax dollars just went to build 50% of 73 is 37. Like 37 of these maps at least are not built right. And so then my tax dollars just went into a nonprofit or government funded, and then they went and hired some consultants that went and architected this software project, and it's just going to be outdated less than a year later. That's super frustrating as a person, just as a person that pays taxes. It's just, oh my God, that's really annoying. So that's what I just want people to hear. That's a spot where part of my frustration comes from, and like I transmute that frustration into creative entrepreneurial spirit, right? That's how I'm choosing to filter that frustration, right? I'm not just like a folk like out on the internet complaining about oh, taxes. No, like I'm here. Like we're putting in the work. Like we're going to make this map. And then the map is built. But we're going to release the map and the map is going to grow and it's going to flourish into a great big beautiful cherry blossom tree. And okay, so then after that, like what you'll see, so I want you to think of Google Maps, right? And like to think that we'll dethrone Google Maps on day one is a little, it's unreasonable. It's totally unreasonable. We're not going to do that. Like people are looking to Google Maps for their restaurants, right? There's the Google reviews, there's order online. They're like, hey, let me see your menu. And like, that's all really great stuff for the restaurant views. Can I see all of that about a farm? Can I order my eggs from like someone that has chickens locally, like on the map itself? Can I like easily toggle that on Google? No, you can't actually. And like furthermore, can you see which of those restaurants and kitchens are like hooked into food apps? Sometimes you can. Sometimes it says order on Uber Eats or whatnot, and there's a button right there on Google. But even Google can't do everything. That's why we're doing this really specific thing around food. So our target is to make a better restaurant viewing experience than viewing your restaurants on Google Maps. That's a high, lofty goal. But that's the kind of like thinking that is here and present behind FoodWeb. We're gonna shoot for the moon. No, sorry, we're gonna shoot for Pluto. And if we hit Jupiter, I'm gonna be satisfied. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And I think it's important to contextualize what you're saying here is like something like Google does, like they provide a service for every single industry. So if you're searching for a plumber versus a electrician versus a doctor, like Google has everything. So if they serve everybody pretty well, we want to serve the food system excellently because FoodWeb is just for food. And that's where we're going with this is the map will have epic functionality for food businesses because you can see the restaurant on the map and see their hours, and eventually we'll add our own review system and all these things. But if that restaurant also lets you rent their kitchen for a pop-up, it will tell you that. Like you can just be browsing the food app and be like, oh, this restaurant looks cool. Oh, I can rent their kitchen in the same app, right? That's the web. That's the web of FoodWeb, right? There is a map. You can find the things, but then you can also book the things and rent the things. And this food map is also built to be built on. Okay, I'll say that again. Food maps is built to be built on. So if you have another app that is relevant, like we have food maps and we have the kitchen app. If you want to build a restaurant delivery app, you want to compete with Uber Eats, give us a call. If you want to build an app for local chicken egg sales, give us a call. This data layer that we're building, this food maps layer that is collaborative, other people add the data. So over time, it becomes more and more comprehensive. Then it becomes easier for other people building apps to build them on top of this data layer because they don't have to go and scrape all that data themselves and they don't have to build it on Google or whatever other layer. We have this collaborative shared data layer. And I know some people are going to have a lot of really like hardcore data questions. And if you have those hardcore data questions, let me know and let me know if you want a job. Because also there's a lot that needs to go into the actual mechanics of that. So we have a pretty big vision here. And yeah.
Yeah, happy to lay out some of those roles there, though, Justin. Justin and I are administrators, right? We're at the very top of this thing. We've got the keys to the castle, fine. But like someone has to have the keys, basically. That's just how every software project works. Now, like just beneath us would be, we called them curators. So just think of the Wikipedia model. On Wikipedia, you've got people that are more or less approved. They've got carte blanche with making edits and they can approve other people's edits, right? That's a curator. And then there's a contributor. And all you need to do to contribute to a food map is to just sign up for an account on FoodWebs, right? So you just go to foodweb.network/sign up. You get an account. You can now publish data to this asset map. Awesome. And like Justin said, there's a lot of nuance that is going to unfold away from these implications, but this is the ground layer, right? This is the base structure here. And to mark my words, there's an API coming, right? Which means that's going to power the app building that Justin mentioned, right? So in order for other people to build their app, their chicken app, their pop-up app, whatever it is, whatever app you want to build, it can be built on FoodWeb. You want to hook into the food ecosystem, the place to do that is FoodWeb. And you will be using the FoodWeb API to do that. So if you've got data questions, like Justin said, reach out to us, Keegan at foodweb.network. That's me. Justin at foodweb.network. That's him. This is a good place to end the episode here, Justin. So do you want to say some parting thoughts? Maybe go skim Instagram, see if there's any comments for us to answer. Nothing on LinkedIn. Folks, come on. Give us a little bit more love next time, okay? Show up on LinkedIn.
Earlier when we tried Riverside, which we stream on, was giving us some error messages. Instagram actually just didn't work. We are live on LinkedIn, but today the Instagram feed just wasn't, that integration actually failed.
It happens.
It happens. The recording's there. As we wrap up, I do just want to give one shout out, which brings a little bit more contextualization to what we just talked about there on building on FoodWeb. So for anybody that is a software engineer and a techie person, everything Keegan just said will make a lot of sense. But for non-technical people that are just like, I don't know what these software bros are even talking about anymore, and I stopped listening 11 minutes ago, and this last stretch of the podcast is jibber jabber. If you've still made it to minute 57 of this podcast and you're listening and you're a little confused, I'm going to ground this in as an example and also give a shout out to one of our new partners. FoodWeb is exploring an integration with another software startup called My Kitchen Ops. Shout out to Carlos behind My Kitchen Ops. He's building a tool that does food costing and inventory management. So, a restaurant or a food business, you need to manage inventory. You also need to know your exact profit margins per dish. And there's a lot of tools out there, and Carlos is building a better one. And I've seen some demos of what he's building, and it's like, I'm mad that I didn't have it when I was doing inventory in restaurants a decade ago. It's very easy to use, but Carlos with My Kitchen Ops and FoodWeb have the same customers, especially when we're looking at the kitchens and food businesses. So rather than needing to log into FoodWeb to run your kitchen and logging into My Kitchen Ops to do your food inventory management, we're allowing them to integrate together so you can use different tools all within the same platform. Therefore, your billing is easier. It's easier at the end of the year for your taxes and your write-offs, and also just seeing your things because it's all connected. And so that's what we mean by FoodWeb is built to be built on, is if you have a different piece of the puzzle, you can integrate that into this network so we all benefit from all the shared information and resources. Oh, big shout out to Carlos. He recently got into an incubator accelerator for My Kitchen Ops. He's working hard to get it out there as well. Much love. Thank you for embarking on the journey with us, and thank you to anybody else who wants to as well. So on that note, again, you can reach me at justin@foodweb.network, or get Keegan if you have a more technical question, send it to him because I'll just have to forward it to him anyways. So that's Keegan@foodweb.network. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye.